is the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you wanna get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
We got a lot to talk about tonight. Opening the NFL and Week 2 college football coming up. Let's bring in the first guest, who's giddy over the Nebraska's big 40-7 win over UTEP. It's Chad Aussie Dropkick Coyle.
How we doing tonight, guys?
And that's enough of that song. Okay. So let's bring in the next guy. You know, we had a couple guys ransack our show the last few weeks. A combination of Macho Man and Kung Pao. So who did I see walking on the street corner? Let's start his fight song and get him on here. It's a build-up. We're building up. We got to get everybody ready. He's about ready. Oh, there he is.
All the haters keep hating. They keep hating on the bottom line. And we out here doing it better than everybody. I spent more money on spilled liquor in the last couple of years than what y'all made on your shows. But here we are. The Rolex wearing, diamond ring wearing, jet setting, limo riding. Son of a gun. And I'm having a hard time holding these alligators down, baby. Woo! Roll Tide.
Oh, my goodness. But
let the haters hate, baby.
So, Brett, as you can tell, he's a little feisty. Coming off of Alabama's big win this week. But really,
the Tide's done. The Tide's done, you understand? Nick Saban's retired and the Tide's done. The bottom line is done.
But let's
you don't need Brett on the show.
Yeah, let's get to what everybody really wanted to hear about. First thing coming on the show tonight. That's what I'm talking about. The Iowa Hawkeyes.
That was
They
awesome.
scored more points on Saturday than they did like in half a season last year.
It's great. I love it. You know why, Ed? Because it gives you hope. And then they will crush your ever-loving little heart as they just piss it all down their leg later this
You
season.
know what? I'm not even worried. I'm not even worried. You know what? Before we get going tonight, I gotta bust some balls. Okay. I was all set to do a roast on all you guys, and I'm gonna have to do it without sound effects tonight because my IT person must have decided they had something else to do tonight. But I went on a long camping trip this last weekend, and I won't bore you with a lot of the details. I'll just tell you that we were out in the middle of nowhere, no Wi-Fi, no nothing. The only thing that I got the whole 3-4 days I was gone was text messages, and that was it. So I told all these ding-dongs here that I needed them to keep me informed on what was going on in the games. And if you can imagine sitting out in the wilderness, staring into a dark sky, listening to the crickets chirp, I sat there envisioning in my mind, God, I wonder how the Colorado game
Sounds
is
like a you
going.
problem.
I wonder how it's going. Nothing. Nobody sent me nothing. And then out of the blue, Brett would send a text that said something like, wow, did you see that play? No, I actually didn't. Why don't you tell me about it, you ding dong? It's like every one of these guys commented on, oh, that was a great play. Oh, man, their defense is letting them down at crunch time. All this kind of stuff, telling me nothing about the game. I had to actually ask them for the final scores. So all three of you, if I was the guy that said this,
Fake news.
all three of you would have been fired. Just keep that in mind next time.
you should have talked to your husband and asked for permission to go in, sit at a nice bar, watch some games, and then go back to the camper. If you got a good husband, they'll let you do that.
The nature boy didn't have that problem. I'm sorry.
All right, before we get started, I just want to make sure.
80, what you gonna do today?
I got my A game.
You got your A game?
A game?
He got his A game.
Okay, you guys got your A game?
Woo!
So what I'm going to do first here is because I'm concerned about Brett. And I'm worried that those feathers are going to have him break out in some serious rash or something. So I'm going to get rid of Brett for a little while so he can take care of some business. And Chad and we're going to start the show off here we're going to talk a little bit of AP Top 25. So let's put that up here. Let's get that comment line going here. And what do you know? We got three of the A team right here at everybody's disposal. And what's John's first reaction? Where's Eric? John, you're already on probation. I'll just slide you back over there. So, Chad, looking at this AP Top 25, you kind of have to look around the corner a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything you see on there that you say to yourself is a pipe dream, or maybe they're climbing the charts just a little bit too quick?
I would say Iowa. I think I gave everybody a lot of false hope.
I knew you was going to say that. I knew you was going to say that.
Which, I personally enjoy because at some point this season, that offense is going to do what that offense always does and get you 3 points and expect the defense and special teams to do it for you. But the other team, Clemson, I can't believe they're still hanging out in the top 25. How that happened, I don't know.
Yeah, you would definitely think that they were kind of it was rocky road to begin with, and then to see how they got spanked, you would have thought that they definitely would have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, LSU, that was a good game. So, I mean, they're hanging in there tough. They'll come back. Once they get into that easy SEC schedule, they'll be able to right the ship pretty easy. Michigan, we'll see. We'll see how they do. I don't have a whole lot of faith that they're going to be able to hold it together this season, but we'll see. And of course, Notre Dame, they're always trapping those hearts, man. All those Notre Dame fans all across the country, they're laying in wait, putting a trap down for them. I mean,
Well,
Georgia didn't surprise anybody. Texas didn't surprise anybody. Ohio State, they're the cream of the cream.
Well, John's got some timers working already because he said Eric talked crap about Notre Dame. He needs to give him some crap, if I remember right. I think pretty much all four of us were kind of hating on Notre Dame. So, you got to give them their props. Got to give them their props
Yeah.
in week one. They went into Texas A&M and College Station and took care of business. So
Yes, they did. Started off with a big win.
And so now that they don't play anybody the rest of the year,
Exactly.
they're in prime playoff position.
I think they did dodge the Air Force this year. I think they dodged Air Force. They're going to play them maybe.
So I would say not really a whole lot more to comment on the top 25.
Not after the first week.
Yeah, so let's dive a little bit into some conferences here. Chad's going to start a weekly bit here where he is going to do power rankings for the Big Ten. So going into week 2, here is Chad's first initial Big Ten power ranking right here. And so as I soak it in, my initial thought would be
What was
my thought number 1 is
you had a thought. So
Rutgers.
I'm
Rutgers at number 6. Are you serious, dude?
Yep.
Rutgers at number 6. I know USC won their first game on a neutral site against LSU, but is one game really indicative to send a team that wasn't even ranked in the top 25 in the country and put them number 2 in the Big Ten after one win?
Hey, they went and played LSU. LSU is, everybody, and we've all heard Brett talk about how the SEC is the conference of all conferences. And so they go in and play LSU, one of the top programs in the SEC, and they took them out. Everybody said that we're going to be able to play defense. Everybody said that we're going to be able to do this and we're going to be able to do that. And they went in and handled a tough game and went and played and beat LSU. So, I mean, that is a better showing than a lot of those teams. I mean, Penn State did pretty good against West Virginia. Oregon had a really tough time against Idaho. What are they the team mascot? The baked potatoes, the loaded baked potatoes, or what? I'm not sure. Michigan beat up a Fresno State team. Iowa tripped over a rock and found some offense. So I don't think there's anything unjustified about putting USC at number 2. I think it's legitimate. Now, will they finish there? I don't know. They got to travel halfway across the country a crap ton of times this year to play Big Ten games. So
now the fact that you go Ohio State, USC, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, and even Wisconsin, I'm okay with that. So I mean, that would naturally put Iowa like around number 7, but Rutgers and Maryland really 6 and 7.
Mm-hmm. The ugly redheaded stepchildren of the Big Ten that everybody just likes to beat on They went out and they played some good football. And they look like they've done some recruiting. They look like they can play. Iowa, your beloved little Iowa. I mean, I wanna think that no, I checked that. I don't wanna think that they can do it. I know they're not gonna do it. They're just gonna do what they always do. And I try not to let my bias get in the way, but history has a way of repeating itself. Just like my Nebraska Cornhuskers, the history of the last 20 years is they're going to go out and lose a bunch of games this year. So I'm enjoying them being at number 10 right now. Later on this season, they'll probably be down there 16, 17.
John has a big issue as well with USC. He claims Wisconsin and Iowa is better.
You think Iowa would have went to a neutral site and beat LSU this last weekend? You think Wisconsin would have? No. Come on, John. John, you're better than that. You're better than that, John. I expect more out of you. Don't come in here with the weak sauce, John. You already complaining Eric's not here, so you can cry to him. He's taking care of business. So what else? What other problems do you have with my list, Ed?
Well, when you think of UCLA,
It's sad.
you don't think of UCLA dropping to that extent to
That's
where
sad.
you got them dead last.
Dead last.
We brought Brett back. You know, now that he got rid of those feathers, is there anything, Brett, that you see up there that you're kind of surprised at looking at the top?
Yep.
18
I mean, for once, I agree with Eric totally on the UCLA. I don't know if you guys caught the late game in Hawaii, but they were absolutely dreadful. And I don't know how they pulled that game out. I watched it, but they deserved the last spot with that performance. Everything else pretty much looks on par. Oregon. I tell you what, they've got to play Boise State this week, and that kid ran. I think they had a running back that ran for about 270 last week, and that's going to be an interesting game.
I think John's a little. He's talking about Brian Kelly, and you would have thought, since he was their beloved coach for the last few years, you think John would have a little bit more.
Well, I get it. I get it now. He's at a school now where LSU, with lesser academics, they've got access to a lot more talent. Of course, being there in Louisiana and being right down the road from Houston. So you're kind of comparing apples to oranges. I thought he did a real solid job at Notre Dame. No, he did not win any of the big games there. They hung in against Clemson a couple times. Played Alabama in the national championship game at the Orange Bowl years ago, and that game was pretty much over before it started. And some of that info leaked out here recently at how Notre Dame was all pumped up, and then they saw DJ Fluker and some of our boys leaving the locker room, and they just thought to themselves, "Oof, this is going to be a long day." And it was a long day. But LSU, keep in mind, they have lost their last 5 regular season openers, 3 under Kelly. And you got to give them credit for playing big name programs. USC absolutely deserves that spot. The one thing I mentioned in my picks last week, and that I thought about Riley from day one, is what a bad job he did in Norman ignoring the defensive side of the ball. And the same thing his first year or two at USC. They had to get bigger and stronger on both lines of scrimmage to compete in the Big Ten. And I'm going to tell you what, they kind of got the better of LSU on that line of scrimmage this weekend. And they showed they beefed up their team, 1,400 pounds. A lot of their starters on both lines of scrimmage were up 20, 25 pounds of muscle. And you could tell a difference. So watch out for USC.
So that's a good segue into Brett the Hitman's SEC power rankings going into week number 2. Let's go ahead and bring that up. And let's see. Let's take Chad off so we can get Brett over to the side. And let's get Brett's Week 2 SEC up here. So, Brett, I'll let you take it away.
I mean, like it, lump it, whatever. Georgia, you still got to have on top. I mean, he learned everything he could from Nick. He's done a phenomenal job at Georgia. Seems like his only kryptonite for the most part since he's been at Georgia has been Nick Saban in Alabama. Will that continue week 4 in Tuscaloosa? We shall see.
Brett,
But,
you
man,
need to slide over to the left a little bit so you can see. There you go. Now
But
you can see it.
but they are just Georgia. Just right now, they're the best program in the country in my eyes. Ole Miss, their offense is just unlimited. Lane invaded the portal again. He's known as the Portal King here in the South. He's got some defensive guys on the side of the ball. They could have named their score Saturday, and I bumped them ahead of my Bama boys because it don't matter where you start, it matters where you finish, baby. Alabama at 3, they're so loaded on both sides of the ball. I really like the Boers play calling. They seem to be the fastest defense we've had in Tuscaloosa since 2016. But one game that remains to be seen. Tennessee at 4, they're absolutely loaded again on offense. That freshman quarterback, highly touted. I think there was 25 or 30 big-time programs that was after him. I guess the check cleared out of Knoxville. He's there. And, Josh Heupel, watch out for Tennessee this year. They're one of my dark horses from the very beginning, making the playoffs and maybe even winning the SEC. Texas at 5, they're loaded. What a big game going to Ann Arbor Saturday at 11. I just think they got too much talent, and I think Michigan will ultimately miss Harbaugh and a lot of that talent that went to the NFL. 6, Missouri. Got to keep an eye on them boys. They won 10, 11 games last year. He recruited pretty strong again. And Drinkowicz, I mean, they've got some ballers there. I mean, I know the SEC took their lumps this weekend, but I still think from at the top 8, 10 teams are absolutely loaded. Oklahoma was impressive with their win. I'm still not sold on their offense, but I think he has Venables has improved the defensive side of the ball. We will soon see once they hit the SEC. Alabama goes to Norman. Oklahoma goes to Auburn later on in the year. Of course, some other big matchups. Arkansas at 9. Boy, Petrino wasted no time coming back to Arkansas and lighting it up. Scored 70 last Thursday. A lot of people got onto me in my SEC group in Southeastern Conference about my power rankings. And I mean, this is just one person's opinion, but how can you leapfrog the other 8? Auburn at 8. I mean, my goodness, they loaded up on recruiting on both sides of the ball. And Hugh Freeze, I'm sorry, he's a better coach than Petrino is offensive coordinator. That's why I put Auburn ahead of them. Kentucky, Stoops has done a solid job at Kentucky. I am anxious to see how they play next. They only played one half last weekend in a very storm-shortened game. They had delay upon delay and finally just called it. Vanderbilt, what a big upset for Vandy in Nashville. I mean, a lot of us did not see that. They didn't necessarily play a powerhouse. Virginia Tech they're looking at a very long season ahead of them. I'm glad they've got a great opening when they come in the stadium to enter Sandman, but that's about all the fans are going to be able to jump around about this season in Blacksburg. Mississippi.
So Brett, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're getting to the very bottom, and Russell made a comment that Razorbacks will be the shocking team this year. But 1 week does not a season make, and you've got LSU losing on a neutral site. Do you really think that LSU is behind the ranks of Vanderbilt, Mississippi State?
That was why I took a lot of flack for, and it's just simply 0-5 in starting games. You're paying, whether you want to admit it or not, you're playing a Pac-12 team. I know they're in the Big Ten now. I know they beefed some of their guys up, but this is the same team without Caleb Williams that struggled mightily last year. Honestly, if you say, look, who's the 10th or the 11th best team in the SEC right now, I probably would say LSU. But man, it's been 1 week and you got to win a game. Let's see that on the bottom of my list. There's probably going to be a lot of flipping and flopping between 10 and 16.
So when you talk about Florida being ranked 16th, I can understand that they didn't look very good the other day.
No,
But to put Texas A&M at the bottom with Florida kind of tells me that you must have believed that the Texas A&M Notre Dame game, it wasn't so much that Notre Dame impressed you, it was just how much Texas A&M didn't impress you.
Notre Dame played a good game, and I'm one of the very few Alabama fans that kind of pull for Notre Dame on the side. I know that's a cardinal sin, but I enjoy them and their history and their tradition. It's like I watch USC and Penn State for a lot of the same reasons. Oklahoma, Nebraska. They're a blue blood in my eyes. But Texas A&M was kind of who I thought they were, and they also lost their starting center for the season. He's out after the Notre Dame game. So that played a part in my thinking. But ultimately, I think South Carolina and Florida is probably going to be fighting Vanderbilt for the cellar this year in the SEC. I mean, South Carolina played some decent defense. Their offense, once again, was dreadful, and they were fortunate to beat Old Dominion at home. I mean, South Carolina, I don't think is going to beat any notable teams this year, and I agree. LSU's probably going to end up in the top half, but right now, I mean, freshman cornerbacks. They lost their Heisman Trophy quarterback. I understand Gus Meyer looked pretty good. They didn't look good on both lines of scrimmage, and that's very important in the SEC. I mean, UNC kind of handled LSU on both lines of scrimmage. Now, it was a toss-up game, and I get that, but even if LSU would have pulled that game off, they would have been on my bottom tier. They would have been, if they would have pulled it out last second, Hail Mary, something crazy, they would have been 10th or 12th on my list. And again, it's just we're 1 week in. And to me, and I know the SEC haters love to hate on the SEC, and I get that. But go back and look at all the playoffs. Go back and look at the last 25 national championships. I mean, the SEC is almost always right there, and there's a reason for it. I mean, with Texas now in the SEC, you basically had 2 SEC teams in the Final Four last year. So it will all work itself out. And I know I've had LSU fans and Arkansas fans and Mississippi State fans come after me, had an Oklahoma fan come after me. It's one person's opinion. And I'm sorry, but I mean, when you play like you know what, you get rated like you know what. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire.
So, Chad, looking at his list, was there anything that jumped out with you that you maybe necessarily didn't agree with?
Well, I saw the LSU. I thought that was pretty interesting, and it's the first few games of the season are so tough for everybody because you don't have any preseason games. You really don't. You don't get together with other universities and do a scrimmage or anything. So all you're doing is beating yourselves up all summer long, and then you get shoved in this game. You got to try and play. It's hard. I mean, I can see why teams struggle with the small colleges and why they do this whole thing we talk about every week of why they play these guys and how it's probably all going to go away. But that was the big one for me. I was surprised how far LSU dropped for you. Surprised how far A&M dropped for you. But I mean, you gave legitimate reasons why. I mean, you got to win a game. They played much tougher opponents than a lot of those people. We'll see. I mean, in case you aren't aware, my secret SEC team has always been South Carolina. I discovered them in the mid '80s, and I was walking by a store, and they have all these hats. And I walked in, they had this cool hat, this big old rooster on the front of it, maroon. And I was like,
Yeah.
Who's this? USC? What are they? The Gamecocks? I'm like, you can say that? They didn't force them to change their name. They're still calling themselves the Gamecocks. And they said, yeah. And I go, all right. They got me. So it hurts a little bit that the Gamecocks are that far down and not doing well. So that hurts a little bit. But I don't know. You know the SEC in and out. I respect what you say. I don't. Like
do
you
I
said,
think LSU and Texas A&M
games.
will finish way down there? No, I do not. No. But now, Florida,
but it's a week to week. So
yeah, Florida. With their schedule, I mean, we were talking about it. 3-4 wins.
Long season. So
Yeah.
let's do this. We've got a full slate of college games in week 2, but there's not a whole lot of them that are really worth spending too much time on. So we picked out 4 games that we'll talk about and give our predictions. But let's take a break first, and when we come back, we'll get into them. All right, first game we're going to talk about. Number 3, Texas, 7-point favorites going into Michigan, Ann Arbor. Number 10, Michigan, Saturday, 11 o'clock on Fox.
Yeah, that's an exciting, interesting game. Texas going into the big house. I think Texas is going to win this game. I just think they just got too much. That Ewers is pretty good. I can't believe he's keeping Manning on the bench, but he's playing really well. Michigan, we'll see if they can keep that magic from last year, but I don't know, man. They've lost so much. This will be a good measuring stick for Michigan.
Well, I can say, Michigan after the 3 quarters against Fresno State at home, only up 13-3. And total yards for the game only ended up a difference of 25 yards. Michigan had 269, Fresno 244. So, boy, for a season opener, after winning the national championship, crowd being electric, I don't think that was a performance that I think Michigan's feeling too good about. So, what do you think, Brett?
Without Harbaugh, with a new quarterback, and again, we all agree they've lost so much. They've had so much off the field controversy, and the NCAA constantly poking at them, getting a different notice every other week, getting this, getting that. And then it's an early start in a big game at home for some reason, for home teams, Leb AM, it's tough. For some reason, it's tougher for the home teams to get going. And I just think Texas and Sarkisian to me is the best play caller in college football. I just think too much speed, too much talent. Texas gets off to a phenomenal start, and Michigan just does not have enough to catch back up and pull the lead. So I would definitely take Texas in that matchup. Turnovers, you can't compensate for a team having 3-4 turnovers and 2 or 3 missed field goals, but I just think the better team in this scenario definitely this year is Texas.
We got Russell here saying Michigan by 10. Don't know if I agree with that.
Ask Russell how he really feels about Texas, and then you'll get your answer why he says that. He's not big on Texas.
Chad, did you take Texas on that?
Yes, I took Texas on that, and they're going to cover.
Okay, so the next game we're going to do is you guys knew it was coming, and the only problem was, I got to say, the only reason why Eric is not here tonight is because he's preparing. Because if you remember right on last week's show, we told you about the fact that we're hooking up with Chuck Long this weekend, offensive coordinator for the Arlington Renegades of the UFL. We got a weekend tailgate of the Iowa State game. So we got to let that play a little bit. Got to set the mood. Chad, you can go ahead and sing along if you want.
We're the black and coward yellow. We fight all day. Black and coward yellow. We go the day.
Yeah, we won't. Iowa State at number 21, Iowa. Iowa is only a 2.5-point favorite. Saturday at 2:30 on CBS. The only thing I will say about this is I think the line is way off. To only have Iowa favored by 2.5 at home. Let's talk a little bit about last week's games. Iowa State played North Dakota at home. Rocco had an all right outing. He was 20 for 26, 267 with 2 touchdowns. Team rushing was less than 100 yards, nothing really to write home about. But the defense for Iowa State, they gave up 174 yards rushing on 42 carries to North Dakota. When you are playing a team like North Dakota and you let them run all over you like that, I don't think that bodes well when you look at Iowa's game against Illinois State. 40 rushes, 241 yards with 2 TDs. Now, granted, it was Illinois State, but you're looking at McNamara, 21 for 31, 251 yards with 3 touchdowns. About when you want to feel good about that, though, the score was 6-0. The score was 6-0 at halftime. So,
Ed, what do Kurt Ferentz teams do? They play down to the competition. So everybody who plays Iowa has got a chance. What's that?
They definitely played down to the competition the first half.
So they played down to the competition. So Iowa State will be in this game. Whether they'll win or not, I'm not sure. I mean, Iowa did go out and get another Australian rules football player for a punter. So that bodes well for the big of the 3 branches of the team, offense, defense, and special teams. We all know Iowa leans heavily on special teams. That's all they have. They do play some pretty good defense. But the size, I don't know. They're always up to play Iowa. And like I said, Iowa plays down. I mean, I'll take Iowa State to win this game. Iowa's perfectly capable of choking this game away.
Talk some sense into him, Brett.
Well, he's not wrong, but Iowa at home, it's pretty neat atmosphere. I'd love to go one day, but I just first team to 20 definitely wins if either team gets to 20. But I would be really surprised if Iowa doesn't win this weekend. So I'm taking Iowa.
I would be remiss. In fact, I can't believe.
Sorry, Eric.
I can't believe what? Excuse me. Who did you take to win?
Iowa.
I was gonna say.
He was just
But anyway, I'd be remiss.
Ed was fixing to boot me off the show.
Well, here's the deal. What I forgot to tell everybody before we went into our pick segment is the results of week 1. You got Big Daddy Ed here, and you got Chad, Aussie Dropkick Coil down there. Both led the way at 5-2. And I didn't even feel good about the 5-2 because I'm like, the way the games were in week 1, I thought 5-2 was the least. But then, after seeing that Chad and I went 5-2, I looked at the other two, and it was like,
oh, did somebody poopy in their big boy pants?
oh my God, we got Brett picking up where he left off in the UFL. So that didn't really surprise me that much. Brett went 3-4.
So what you're saying here is Brett's pick of Iowa isn't so good.
That could be. But what really got me is the fact that you've got Eric, who touts himself as being
the top
end all be all of
Picking.
predicting games, and he went 3-4 as well. I mean, that's horrible.
Thank you, Ed.
So I will add too that Eric, just to keep you guys all up on his picks, he did take Texas and he did take Iowa. So the fact that Eric even took Iowa, being a big Iowa State alumni fan like he is.
So I'm the lone wolf on this game?
You are the lone wolf on that pick, dude.
Oh, I'll take it.
I think Eric did that for reverse psychology.
Did he? Trying to anti-gank?
Yep.
All right. Let's move on to the next game. The next game is number 14, Tennessee, favored by 7.5 at number 24, NC State. Saturday night game, 6:30 on ABC. What do you think about that one, Brett?
I think NC State's going to be singing some sad, slow songs. Did you see NC State play this weekend? They're in for a world of hurt Saturday night. Tennessee, big.
They played West Carolina, and it took them 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter after trailing 21-17 to pull that game out. So, there's
Tennessee's going to be playing Rocky Top up there all night, and they're going to be river dancing on NC State's head.
You want to be a lone wolf on this one too, Chad?
No, I'm taking Tennessee. I trust my man Brett. He knows his SEC. He can't pick a game. He can pick a nose. And I'll take Tennessee Vols to cover the spread. There you go. What do you got, Ed?
I got Tennessee. And I don't even think it's going to be close. Tennessee, they had 5 rushing touchdowns in their big 69-3 win over Chattanooga. So whenever you have 5 rushing TDs, over 300 yards rushing, they didn't even have to display what their offense could be. They just basically called off the dogs and decided they were going to run the ball the whole night. So 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, yeah. And so, they didn't need anything else. So I fully expect Tennessee to go in and take care of business. And I think it's going to be relatively easy. And old Jay agrees. He's got Tennessee by at least 14. So far, after 3 games, we've got only one lone wolf pick, and that's Iowa State by Chad in the Iowa State game.
Who's Eric taking in this game? Tennessee, North Carolina?
Yeah, he's got Tennessee as well. So let's go on to the final college game of this week, and that's going to be Colorado going into Lincoln, Nebraska, where Nebraska's 7.5-point favorites.
That's insane.
Prime time game, Saturday night, 6:30 on NBC. We gotta let Chad have first stab at this one, because
After last year's game at Colorado, Rule's got to prove it to me that he can do this before I'll go picking him in a game like this. Dylan Raiola, the freshman sensation, he looked good. He looked good for a freshman, and that made me happy. I will take that, and I will run with it. But until Nebraska learns to win these games, I can't pick them. They got to prove it to me before I can pick my Huskers. I'm going Colorado.
that is a surprise pick by Chad. So what do you think, Brett? Oh, Brett kind of went AWOL on us.
He got scared. Didn't want to pick the game.
You don't suppose he was talking to another passerby in his double
could've
wide
been.
beer stand, do you?
He probably had the boa hanging out the window, and he was coming by. Somebody's coming by to proposition him.
Colorado, to me, showed that they were, I don't know, maybe
They didn't look that good. Colorado didn't look that good.
Well, to me, they kind of showed they were one-dimensional.
Oh,
Because, they rushed for 59 yards on 23 carries. Now, granted, Sanders was lighting it up. I mean, the first couple passes he threw for touchdowns he burned them for big gains. But I don't know. I think that if you're going to be serious when you start playing the good teams, you got to be able to do more than just throw the ball.
yeah. Colorado's defense did not look good. They did not look good. They were getting run on. They were getting scored on. But this is more a pick, my lack of faith in Nebraska than my faith in Colorado.
I mean, Colorado gave up 292 yards in the air, gave up 157 yards rushing. So this was not a game to write home about at all. And when they interviewed Deion Sanders after the game, he was not the happiest camper in the world either.
No.
Afterwards. So we must have Brett having some connection issues here. But I took Nebraska in this game. I think that Nebraska is going to be ready for this game. It kind of is the old-time rivalry.
Look at John David's big bold pick there, Ed.
Let's see. Wow, look at this. Colorado by 20.
By 20?
By
20?
20.
Nebraska, John David, Nebraska is the preeminent power of losing by 3 points. So getting beat by 20 is not going to happen. But
No.
they will lose by 3 or 6. I would agree. What
So,
do you got
Brett,
on this game, Brett?
Sorry, fellas. Technical issues. I was trying to check out the comments and froze up. Look, Colorado's got a couple stars, in Hunter and Shador Sanders and the new cheetah they've got. I can't even think of his name. Holt. What was his name?
I don't remember. That kid could run like the wind, though.
Yeah.
you're
They just
talking
don't
about
have
Colorado, right?
Right.
You had Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter had 3 touchdowns, 132 yards receiving. And then you had Jimmy Horn, I think his name was.
There you go.
Horn.
198 yards on 7 receptions. So, yeah.
Well, that's great and wonderful and everything in between. I've seen all I need to see out of both these teams, especially in Nebraska. Now, I am leery, like poor Chad. I know he's been through it. Me and him are both Bears fans, so we go through it every Sunday. But look at what Matt Rule did at Baylor. And I don't even go into the Carolina thing. That the owner and the GM, they just lighting a match to that franchise. And I wish Bryce Young could get out of there before it's too late. I think Nebraska is going to beat up on Colorado. They're going to embarrass them. But I'm terrified that Nebraska, like Chad said, I'm terrified they're gonna get up 35-7 and forget. Oh, hey, there's 2 halves to the game, and Colorado's gonna pull a rabbit out of the hat. But I just Nebraska's 17, 20 points is I don't think it's gonna be that close at the end of the game. So I'm taking the corn. I'm taking the Cornhuskers.
Jay says Nebraska by 10. And he also says he's going to eat his damn hat if Colorado wins by 20. So he's kind of – and
there was another guy that it still went viral. I've seen him on Fox News and ESPN. He said he was going to eat something out of a red Solo cup if his Florida State team lost to Boston College. And by the end of the game, nobody could find him on X or Instagram or Facebook. He has went MIA.
Yeah.
So John, being an avid Mizzou fan, you can tell when he says he hates Nebraska, that's deeply rooted from years back, right?
Yeah,
Chad?
John. If I don't blame you for hating Nebraska as a Missouri fan. I mean, first of all, you guys can't spell Missouri. That's the first problem you got. And then, like Iowa, you're repping black and coward yellow, and Nebraska just treated y'all like you were their little bitch. And I get it. I get it.
Notre Dame has gold. They have gold helmets. You got to admit they got some pretty
gold. Yeah, Notre Dame's got gold, but Mizzou, that's just like Iowa, black and coward yellow. So I don't know.
Mizzou's one of those teams that they're going to be more than happy to just lay in the weeds.
I know you become a big Missouri fan.
No, I'm not a Mizzou fan.
It's easy for you. You don't have to.
I'm not a Mizzou fan, but I will say that their schedule, if the tea leaves work out for them this year, they're going to be in the hunt at the end. So
it's going to be a wild and woolly football season, fellas.
What's Eric got on this game?
So Eric took Nebraska as well. So after the first 4 picks, myself, Eric, and Brett, we all agree Texas, Iowa, Tennessee, and Nebraska. Chad's the one that kind of went AWOL a little bit. He's got Texas. He took Iowa State over Iowa, Tennessee, and then he took the upset of Colorado over his team. So
Wow, a little reverse psychology,
He's a
huh?
little damaged, I think.
Oh, I'm really damaged. I'm emotionally, spiritually damaged.
He's had
It's
some
been a lo-
lean years the
it's
last
been
decade or so.
yeah, it's been a long 23 years, 24 years. It's been rough.
So it will be nice when conference play starts and we really start getting into the meat of these schedules, because these first couple weeks, man, are dreadful.
Yeah,
It's
all the cream puff
when
games.
you've got a full complete slate of college games and you have to pick out 4 games that we've done here tonight, that just tells you the lack of quality matchups there is out there for week number 2. So let's talk about this quick, and then we'll break going into hour number 2 of the NFL. So Jay puts up there, what were your picks on the Auburn Cal game?
He's a Auburn fan, and Jay, I'll take this one. Auburn is going to run through California like shit through a tin horn. And I know you love that saying because that comes from old coach Nick Saban, Alabama. But Auburn, big, very big. Auburn could very easily start the season 4-5-0. I think they're still a year away from being where you want them to possibly be, and that's competing for the SEC title. I still don't think they have the quarterback for it, but I think Auburn's going to put a hurting on California this weekend. And it's on the plains.
Let's see. Yeah, I did. Okay, let's take that off of there. All right, so let's do this. That kind of concludes hour number 1. We got college behind us. So when we come back, let's kick off hour 2. And when we come back, we're going to start talking about a full slate of the NFL. So we will be right back.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
We are back for hour number 2. Brett the Hitman is gone again. He's having a little bit of I wonder if they're having a little bad weather. He's swaying around in that tree, having trouble staying properly perched.
Are you ready for tomorrow night, Ed?
I am ready for tomorrow night. I got to say, when the UFL was in full swing, I was really into the UFL season. In fact, I kind of lost a little luster for the NFL. And it didn't take long once the UFL season was over to kind of start grabbing it again. You know, but when you got a Vikings jersey like this and it's such a great number, you know.
You've never utilized that
Jared
number.
Allen, eventual Hall of Famer. For sure.
You have never utilized that number. Come on. You're kidding.
Everybody knows this number. Jared Allen, baby. Jared Allen.
Oh, Jack in the Box. He was a fun player to watch.
That's
He
right.
always had a sweet mullet.
So are you with us for the long haul now, Brett? You kind of did you have to go McDonald's and grab a burger or what?
No, I'm having technical issues. I think I failed to update my my device earlier, and that's why I'm having issues.
Let's get that ticker rolling. On the bottom, we had some sightings. It's funny that the 49ers seem to wait until the last minute to pretty much sign all their problem children. So
A lot of guys demanding or saying they're not going to play if they don't get their money, but might sit out. Like you've had this whole off season to get this ironed out, get this figured out, and one guy plays that trick, and then all the rest of them play it.
Jamar Chase showed up at practice today to everybody's surprise, so we'll see.
As one of them said, he might not play this weekend.
He's kind of been showing up and then not showing up, showing up and then not showing up. But if you look at ownership in Cincinnati, he's not much for signing people early, signing his players early, let alone 2 years early.
No.
I think he's too afraid of what precedents it's going to set for the rest of his team in the future. So I would be shocked, if there's not some kind of an under the table job done with Chase just to get him to play the season out before he extends them after the season.
Maybe.
I
don't know. He's got to play. If he doesn't play, they're not going to be too good.
So let's get Ricola. It's funny. So let's start off with the first game that we're going to discuss and we're going to pick is the Thursday night game. I tell you what, man, running this board becomes a full-time job, but I will do it for my fans. First game we're going to talk about, Baltimore goes into Kansas City. And I would say on this game that it's kind of like time to put up or shut up for Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's been touted as the new up-and-coming team that was going to take over the top spot from Kansas City. And it seems like every time that comes right down to it, Lamar Jackson can't seal the deal. So what are you guys saying on this game?
Well, my opinion might be a little skewed considering I hate Kansas City and I hate the fact that every big game, the calls seem to go their way the last 3 or 4 years. And I'm not typically one of those guys, but a couple little sports bars here in town that I like to go and watch some NFL games and a couple of the regulars kind of brought it to my attention, and I thought, okay, here we go with, conspiracy theory. And I'm going to tell you what, for a team to basically almost lead the league in holding year after year after year, and I think they haven't had one hold called on them in their last 3 Super Bowls or something to that effect. A lot of close calls seem to go Kansas City's way, but I think they're still celebrating. Kelsey, how much more tread does he have on those tires? Andy Reid is a hell of a coach, but something just keeps telling me Baltimore will take this one tomorrow night. But I like Chad said, I hadn't been able to pick my nose last season, so that's just my 2 cents.
Jay says he's taking Baltimore by 4. John David is taking Kansas City by 10. What do you think, Chad?
I think it's going to be Kansas City. I don't know if it's going to be by 10, but I'm taking Kansas City. When we talked about the AFC North, I said Baltimore did Lamar Jackson dirty again. They did not get him any kind of weapons that are legitimate. And Rashee Rice is going to play. He's going to play for the foreseeable future. He did not get put on the commissioner's exempt list or whatever it's called. And they're going to wait for the whole legal process to fall out. So that might not be till next year. And he's going to play. They've got a new toy in the toy box, Xavier Worthy, faster than shit through a goose or something like that, right? Isn't that how you say it down there?
He can turn the lights off and be in bed before the room gets dark.
Yeah. And
that's the receiver I wanted our Bears to take. He's cheetah fast, like the cheetah in Miami, but he's a heck of a lot taller and longer, and he is going to be a problem in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he's going to need to put a little meat on his bones, but I just think that they're going to get out. The Kansas City's going to out coach them. You've got the third greatest quarterback of all time, Mahomes. You've got plenty of toys to play with. And they even brought in P. Ryan to go help on third downs, which I thought was interesting. But Pacheco, he's going to run like a little kid with a new pair of shoes all over. It's going to be Kansas City, and I don't know. I'm talking myself into it. It might be by 10.
I'm going to lose this game just for my simple. I'm tired of Kansas City.
I understand.
So did you take Baltimore, Brett?
Yes, sir, I did.
Get
him King Henry. You got some more games left in you. We just need King Henry right, King Henry left.
And so that brings up Jay's question. Will Henry be relevant in Baltimore? What do you think, Brett?
I think he will be because Lamar is so mobile and there'll be a lot of read option going on there. But let's face it, and I love Henry. I mean, he's a good cat, man. What a workhorse. Very rare breed for this day and time in the NFL. Very rare. Whether you like him or whether you don't, it's a fact. But that man took a beating here in Tuscaloosa against the very best competition, and we ran him. And I tell you what, Tennessee has ran him for their lack of quarterback play up there. And I don't know how much more he's got left in him. I just 2 years max. I still think he's got a little juice in the tank, but they're going to have to – they can't hand him the ball 25, 30 times a game anymore. I think those days are probably not far from being behind Derek.
What do you think? If 25-year-old Derrick Henry was 100%, what is he now?
Probably 85 to 90.
I think he's more like 68.
He's, he doesn't have the lightning speed anymore, but people don't realize he loves the weight room. He's one of those rare guys that love to lift weights, and he is so freaking big.
Oh, he's a freaking nature. I'm not disagreeing.
He's the size of a defensive lineman. Very long arms, very tall, very strong. I mean, you see him and you're like, I heard so many comments when he was a freshman from, Herb Street and all these different guys like, my God, they would say, who's that big linebacker that wears number 2? And they're like, no, that's King Henry. That's our new running back. And everybody's, you saw the picture with him standing next to Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram looked like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
next to him. He's so big. So, that will help his, his breakaway speed. I mean, when he was younger, once he got that second level, you would still see him run away from 90% of the guys because he was so daggone fast to be so big. Now, he doesn't have that extra gear, in my opinion, but 85% Derrick Henry, I would take him. But you're right. Baltimore's got a problem at wide receiver. And I'm almost ready to change my pick, but since I've done it, let's go with it.
Well, I would say Baltimore's they're kind of the San Francisco 49ers of the AFC because
You remember I call them the Dallas Cowboys because they have great regular seasons, but once they get to the playoffs, it's over.
well, what I was talking about is more cap related. San Francisco did what they needed to do this year to keep their team together for this year.
Right.
But when this season, this is kind of, I think this is San Francisco's
Alamo.
probably their last hurrah this year because, listening to a sports show today, San Francisco is going to be in real cap trouble after this season's over, and they still have to sign Purdy yet. So the team that you're seeing this year is not the team you're going to see next year, which is kind of sad. Purdy goes ahead and plays all these last few years, basically making chicken scratch compared to all the other quarterbacks. And
right.
by the time he actually gets paid,
he's not going to have the weapons.
He's not going to have anybody to throw the ball to. But in a way, that's kind of Baltimore too. I mean, Baltimore's had a season in there. I mean, they've been in prime position with Lamar Jackson at the helm to get to the Super Bowl, and they continue to fall short. And
Lamar reminds me a lot of Cam, and look at what happened to Cam once he lost that extra step and could no longer run past those linebackers and those DNs and outrun them. How much tread does Lamar have left on his tires?
I don't think that's a good comp. I think the comp is the lefty. Oh, I can't think of his name right now. The dog fighter guy.
Michael Vick.
Vick. I think the comp is Vick because I mean Cam Newton was massive. He was 6'5".
Yep,
he was
big dude.
And Lamar Jackson is not that. Lamar Jackson is 10 times the athlete that Cam Newton was. Cam Newton was just so big, and he was straightforward fast, but Lamar Jackson is a special kind of quick, fast, kind of like Michael Vick was. So I think that's more an apt comparison, but they invest
3 more years left on his legs, but what's going to happen?
He hasn't taken the big hits. He hasn't taken the big hits. That's what
he hasn't. But I mean, you can't. You're just not going to be able to run as fast at 30 as you can 22. I mean,
sure.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why they need to invest in some weapons.
So Jay's saying all Lamar has left to prove is to beat Mahomes. I think there's a little bit more to prove than that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to prove.
There's a lot more to prove than that, but to say
they want a Super Bowl in Baltimore, and I don't know if they're going to get it. They don't have the weapons.
Yeah. So who do you got in this game, Ed?
So Eric took Kansas City. It's easy. It would be easy to say that Kansas City's gonna be hungover, second consecutive Super Bowl win, and granted, Kansas City won this Super Bowl this last year, and I don't even think that they weren't the best team in the AFC. I still believe that. But I think that they're out on a mission this year. I think they're out to prove that they can three-peat. And I think they know going into this game healthy that they can make a major statement by knocking off Baltimore in week 1. If they don't beat Baltimore in week 1, then I think it goes a long way in kind of curbing some of that confidence But I think that I think that Kansas City, they're like the king of primetime games. I mean, God, they're one of the teams that seems like every week you sit down for primetime games, they're one of the teams.
Yeah. One of the bosses at work is a former Chiefs season ticket holder, and it just got too expensive, and he finally quit. But he's going down for the game tomorrow night, and he's optimistic. He's convinced they're gonna. He's very happy with where they're at. He's got more out of it than I thought, but it's going to be electric down there.
God, as Chicago Bears fans and Minnesota Viking fans sitting there, if we won 3 out of the last 4 Super Bowls, we'd be damn happy too.
Yes.
I just want to win one before I die.
But I mean, I just can't see him losing tomorrow night. I mean, they can. Anybody can be beat, but
oh yeah.
Baltimore. So we got 3 of us taking Kansas City, and we got Brett.
I can't get past the hatred.
Going once. Going twice.
I'm going. I'm done.
You're going to stick with Baltimore. Okay.
Somebody's got to be the bottom dog. Might as well be me.
Interesting game. Our second game of the week. Green Bay Packers at Philadelphia, but the game is in Brazil. Friday night at 7:15 on Peacock. So a game of this caliber, it never ceases to amaze me how many upset fans you're going to have about the fact that they can't watch the game because it's on Peacock.
Are either of you going to get the Peacock network to watch these games?
No, I've had enough. I've had enough of the constantly paying for different. I mean, enough's enough.
I do have Peacock, so yes, I will be watching the game tomorrow night.
I'd like to go down to the sport, my favorite spot down here and watch it. And it doesn't matter. I'm not a drinker. I just drink my soft drink and enjoy the games. But it's Friday night in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and we've got a homecoming the next day, a home game against South Florida. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze into a spot to watch the game. I would like to. We ought to talk a little bit about the controversy surrounding this game. Players are telling, and the league has pretty much told the players to not allow their families to come along. The players have been told don't leave their hotel rooms. There's a lot going on down in Brazil right now between social and political stuff that we don't need to cover. But they've also got some wildfires down there. There's a lot of sickness spreading down there. There's a lot of players that have came out in the last week very vocal about not wanting to go down to Brazil and play this game. It's a lot going on. So I would hate to miss this game because it's gangs are so bad down there, folks. And one of the main gangs colors green. They supposedly threatening that neither team needs to wear green. Well, hell, it's Green Bay and Philadelphia. So I don't think you will see the NFL back in Brazil anytime soon. And I really don't need to say anything else about that.
Well, really, if you think about it, I get the whole NFL Europe thing and, playing games over there. I'm sorry, but I don't understand this Brazil. There's no way that you are going to get a franchise in Brazil. So, maybe they don't want a franchise in Brazil. Maybe they're just trying to pick up viewership. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I think Sao Paulo itself is like 20 million people.
But what they're putting, in my opinion, and maybe I shouldn't say this, they're putting people possibly in danger or at risk or just in a bad area where if you tell your family and friends don't come down there to watch you play, do you really need to say anything else? I mean, at some point, when is enough for the NFL when it comes to money?
Yeah.
So I'll start off first.
Yeah, start the game.
I'll start off first picking the game because, Eric and I agree 100% that unless it's just a slam dunk, we just can't pick Green Bay. I mean, Green Bay is. I can't pick Green Bay. So I don't know that I believe all the hype on quarterback
Jordan Love.
I mean, he's already being talked about as the second coming, or I guess the third coming when it comes to Packer football.
Fourth coming, Bart Starr.
Well,
I mean, every
consecutive.
every quarterback they pick.
Yeah.
So I'm taking Philly in this one. If I picked this game before I actually realized that the game was in Brazil. So, but ultimately, I'm hoping it doesn't matter because the more losses Green Bay can get, the better. So I'm taking Philly in this one. Who wants to go next?
I'm going to take Philly too. It's not for my hatred of the Packers, although I do hate them. I just think Philly's a better team. I think Jalen Hurts is an elite quarterback. The weapons he's got. I think that offensive line, sure, it might drop a little bit, but it's probably still the best offensive line in the league. The defense seems to be, they've made some tweaks and improvements, especially in the defensive backfield. So I think they're going to play better. And Green Bay they have 7 wide receivers, but they don't have one. They got 7 guys who can play. They just can't figure out who the one is.
Yeah, who's the man?
Who's the man? And they can't, and the guy that they want to be the man, they can't keep healthy, Christian Watson. So, we'll see. I'm not a big Josh Jacobs guy. I think he's going to let him down. I think he's an Alabama guy, isn't he? He's overrated. I just don't think he's got it. He had one good season, and that's been about it. So I'm going with Philly, and I think they'll cover.
Do we really think that Green Bay? Now, granted, they made it to the NFC Championship last year. Not going to take anything away from that, but I just don't see how Green Bay has been crowned. I mean, you watch a lot of shows, a lot of them where they do their predictions on who the playoff teams and who makes the Super Bowl, whatever. The amount of talk for Green Bay this year, I don't get it. I mean, they're a young team, so if they're all that, if they really are all that, as young team as they are, we're going to be seeing the Packers around for some time.
Yay! Oh, well, let me go ahead and get this over with. Go, Pack, go. Not Philadelphia by 150. Screw them. No, I keep talking about it. And, we've mentioned some of the rumors that we've heard on Philadelphia. And, I am not a fan of Philadelphia. I detest their fans. I'm sure there's some good ones out there. I know of one. But look at their last 2 drafts. I mean, and what they've done in free agency. I still say, to me, they're one of the most talented teams in the league. I mean, my God, they are loaded. And I don't know what all happened last year in the locker room. And it sounds like it was half a team against the other half. And if Philadelphia don't make it to the NFC Championship game this year, I think they will be bringing on a new coach the following year. Because that roster is just, it is just loaded.
Yeah.
And I just can't pick Green Bay. I'm not going that route. Now I do think this might be one of the most entertaining games of the weekend, so I'm gonna try to watch it. But yeah, give me Philadelphia by 3, and I think it's again going to be probably one of the most entertaining games this weekend.
So that's a clean sweep for Philly. So I for one am hoping that that's how it pans out. Next game on the docket is Houston, favored by 2.5 points at Indianapolis. Sunday noon game on CBS.
That's all, huh?
That is all. I was kind of surprised at that as well. The only thing, Indianapolis, for whatever reason, seems to be one of those teams that is a really good home team. I know I've went to Indianapolis to watch a couple games, and one of the games in particular, Indianapolis had no business winning the game, and they did. And it just Indianapolis is a good home team, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but we'll find out. This is the big year for C.J. Stroud. You know, it's one thing to be a potential league MVP as a rookie. It's another thing to be a top 5 quarterback your sophomore season, because all the teams, you know, they all get paid. All the defensive coordinators get paid. They've spent this whole off season looking at film on C.J. Stroud, figuring out how to slow him down. They may not stop him, but they're just looking to slow him down. And so this will be the first test. Indianapolis, in division rival. Will they show the league the recipe of at least slowing down C.J. Stroud and showing that he does have some weaknesses? Maybe, but I still think at the end, Houston's going to pull this out. Houston's got a very talented team. I think that as much as Stephon Diggs gives them an even better wide receiving core, I think it puts that one player in the mix that if things don't go well for Texas early on, and really lead to some destruction from a team standpoint. But I think as far as week one's concerned, I'm taking Houston. Eric also took Houston. So whoever wants to go next, go ahead.
Yeah, I am also puzzled, not just with the fascination of the media of the Colts, but of Anthony Richardson. So Ed and I are, to say we are some fantasy football players is an understatement, and I just don't understand. Everybody's is convinced this guy is going to be it. We've got a pretty good sample size, and the sample size is he's big, he's fast, he's strong, but he can't take the punishment. He played 2 3/4 games last year, and then they're gonna have to. I mean, can old man Joe Flacco, can he come in and work his Cleveland magic, or does he turn into Baltimore Flacco? I just don't see it. I mean, they got one of the most talented backs in the league, and Taylor. Pittman is a heck of a wide receiver. They drafted one, Adonai Mitchell, but I'm just not convinced that Anthony Richardson is going to be able to do anything.
Well, they brought him in. You know, he you know, the knock on him last year was that he wasn't durable enough to be a running quarterback, and he took a lot of big hits that sent him to the locker room early for the season. So what does he do? He takes the offseason and he put on, God, what was it? I'm trying to remember. It was like 30 or 40 pounds. He come into training camp at 255. And
Wow.
It's like, okay, do we have a Dante Culpepper on our hands? Because you take a guy that's got speed, that all of a sudden you put a frame that all of a sudden weighs 255. Does he lose a step? Does he take those hits that he normally wouldn't have taken? I don't know. Anthony Richardson, what did he throw? Less than 400 balls for Tennessee. I mean, how proven is he really? And is he going to get exposed by the NFL? This is a very important season for him because, for all intents and purposes, this is another rookie season for Anthony Richardson. So.
Yeah, it is. So because of that, I'm shocked. Vegas must know something, because I would, I'm thinking, Houston by 9.5. I mean, I don't understand 2.5. I'm taking Houston, and they're going to cover the spread. This baffles me, and maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe I just don't get it, which is totally possible. But this kid hasn't done anything.
So Brett, you're an SEC guy, so you've probably seen a lot more of Anthony Richardson than either Chad or I have. What's your take on him?
Florida fans are big on Richardson. A lot of us, and I don't consider myself a hater when I'm looking at the player, being drafted, because you don't know who they're going to be drafted from. But I was never high on Richardson. He's just, to me, he's an athletic specimen. Yes, he's got a big arm. But even when he was at Florida, I mean, it was just very roller coaster like, and maybe that had something to do with the team around him and the coaching. But we all made fun of our Florida buddies when they all said originally that he said he was going to the draft, that he was going to be a first rounder. And I'm sorry, from what we saw in the SEC, I didn't see it, and a lot of us did not. I am not nearly as high on Anthony Richardson as a lot of people are. And again, he was constantly banged up down there in Gainesville. I'm a big D'Amico Ryans fan. He did a phenomenal job defensively, of course, at Alabama, but he did a fantastic job at San Francisco. I'm glad he got his shot at Houston. They let him pick the players he wanted to draft, and I think he did a great job with that. Houston, I'm very high on them competing with Kansas City and Cincinnati this season for the AFC Championship. It might be first game jitters, being on the road and all that, and maybe the crowd can pull the Colts out, but I'm taking Houston to win and to obviously cover with that low line.
And think about this. One more point here. I mentioned Flacco earlier. So if Richardson gets hurt, which there's a pretty good chance,
right?
There's no way they run the same offense.
No,
Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson cannot run the same offense.
No,
so they have to have a whole nother offense for Flacco. So how do you go around carrying two offenses? I don't know. That's
I was never big on the draft pick when Andy took him, and at the spot that they took him. I still don't see it, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but kind of like the kid that I thought from the get go that was just drafted by New England from North Carolina, May. Richardson always kind of reminded me of him at flashes. May would have flashes, but when it get down to the business and to winning a game, he would always come up short. And like I said, we're just talking about one game here, but I think ultimately Indianapolis is going to regret that draft pick. So I'm definitely going to take again Houston.
So that's a clean sweep for Houston. Let's move on to our next game. And that is Pittsburgh at Atlanta. Atlanta's favored by 3. It's a Sunday noon game on Fox, which probably bodes well for Kirk Cousins because that seems to be his prime slot for winning games. But which one do you want to go first on this one?
Bitter. I'll go first. I think that I think Russ Wilson's going to start the game. He's going to get pulled at half for being ineffectual. He's not going to be able to get anything done. I think that my boy Justin Fields is going to come in the game. He's going to turn it around. Pittsburgh's going to upset Atlanta. Going to beat them by 3 or 4. That's my prediction. Pittsburgh beats Atlanta behind Justin Fields.
Behind
You like that, Brett? What do you think, Brett?
No. Now, I think you are absolutely correct that Russell Wilson might get pulled, and the terrible towels that will show up in Atlanta in full force will be screaming, Justin Fields, Justin Fields, Justin Fields. And then after a quarter of Justin Fields being on the field, they're going to be screaming for the third stringer or for the water boy. Third string. And, you know, Atlanta at home, I think it'll be close. Pittsburgh's got a world-class defense. You know, they just re-signed Hayward. They got TJ back. I think he's about as close to 100% as he's probably going to be right now.
Yeah, TJ Watt chasing down torn Achilles, Kirk Cousins.
Well, there ain't going to be no chasing. I mean, Cousins just going to lay down. He's going to fold like a lawn chair.
Yeah, Cousins isn't one for any part of that. So
Russell Wilson's best days are 4 or 5 years behind him, and Justin Fields never had a best day. So give me Atlanta at home.
Hater.
Eric took Atlanta as well. As far as my pick, I don't know, man. I look at Russell Wilson, and a few years ago, I would have said Russell Wilson has the possibility of going into the Hall of Fame. I thought he was having that kind of a career where he would at least been in the discussion to go to the Hall of Fame. I think the last couple of years he's played his way out of that conversation, and I think his best days are well past him. And I am a firm believer that if Pittsburgh loses this game in Atlanta and they play their first home game in Pittsburgh and they're getting beat at home, that it's not going to take the Pittsburgh fans very long to completely turn on Russell Wilson. And they'll be chanting Justin Fields' name, and heaven forbid Justin Fields goes into the game and rescues the Steelers and they get a win. It's going to get ugly real fast as far as the quarterback controversy. But at the end of the day, you know Eric's stance on Justin Fields. Even if Justin Fields was to pull lightning out of a bottle and get a win for Pittsburgh coming in as the backup, can he win week in and week out? The consistency at quarterback just hasn't been there for Justin Fields. So I think that the Pittsburgh has got a real potential problem on their hands to get any kind of consistency and get the fan base behind them, because they don't have a clear number one. And I think the favorite quarterback is always going to be the one on the sideline holding the clipboard. And they're going to turn on the starting quarterback the first time something goes wrong. I am taking Atlanta because it's a noon game on Sunday. And I know Kirk Cousins is pretty good at noon on Sundays. So let's go to – let's see. Let me look at the comment line here to make sure we don't have Jay thinks Falcons by 3. So I think – let's see. So let's go to – so we have – 3 of us taking Atlanta, myself, Eric, and Brett. Chad is the lone wolf taking Pittsburgh. So let's go to the next game, which will be, I have a feeling this is going to be a good one. Cleveland is just dying to have a relevant team. and Lord knows they have the defense for it. But when they signed Deshaun Watson, if they would have told you that in 2 seasons, paying him $200 and some million guaranteed, that he was only going to play in 12 games in the last 2 seasons, if that was good, if they would have thought that contract was worth it, I think they'd all agree that no, it's not. But I kind of have a feeling in this game that you're going to see Dallas. It's going to kind of be the culmination of everything that they didn't do in the offseason. They didn't try to make their team better. They didn't sign any free agents. They didn't sign CeeDee Lamb when it was pretty much clockwork where they had to be from a contract per year number. They had it in their lap for weeks and decided that wasn't important enough to get him in. So he's going to end up with a bad hamstring. Watch the next 2 or 3 weeks. He's going to be on the injury report because he's going to have a bad hammy because he didn't get to properly get ready for the season. You've got Dak Prescott. He's now openly going to the press, and he's bad-mouthing Jerry Jones because he wanted to be extended and he wasn't. They've got a running back core that's made up of a bunch of has-beens that, yes, does Dalvin Cook sound good? Yeah, he sounds really good. But he was really good about 3 years ago before his shoulder injury set in, and one good hit to the shoulder and he's probably out for a couple of weeks. Ezekiel Elliott coming back, donning number 15 that he wore at Ohio State. He's a shell of his former self. I just think that being on the road in Cleveland after all the cameras have been on Dallas this whole offseason, I wouldn't be surprised to see him lay an egg. I see Cleveland winning this game. What about you guys? Eric,
Go ahead, Brett.
Eric, by the way, says Dallas. He's taking Dallas. So,
Yeah. All that being said, I mean, I take a cue from my brother that claims to know everything about football, and said if we needed somebody on the show that really knew football to contact him. I remember when Cleveland signed Deshaun Watson, he said, Cleveland had just bought themselves a Super Bowl. He seems to have a short memory. All those off the field problems, I still think Dallas is the better team. Give me Dallas.
I'm an upstanding guy, even when I have comments on that doesn't shine me in the best of light. Even though this guy didn't he think I was a Mississippi State fan last week?
That was a buddy of mine that said that. I didn't tell him that.
Off the hook on that one?
No, I didn't have nothing to do with that. That's what I told him. I said, he thinks I had something to do with that. And he said, no, you didn't tell. I said, no, I don't even know where you came up with Mississippi State from.
So Brett's taking Dallas. So
how about them Cowboys?
What's Chad got to say on this one?
Well, I think it's good. This is going to be fun for a different reason. I'm looking forward to watching 2 of the best defensive players in the league, and the defense just in the NFL has just been crapped all over. So it's good to see. We got Micah Parsons and we got Myles Garrett, 2 of the premier defensive players in the league. Micah Parsons wants to get paid and deserves to get paid, and Myles Garrett has been paid. So it'll be fun to see what those 2 defenses do. Now, I'm surprised you didn't take Cleveland. I mean, they got almost an all-Alabama Crimson Tide receiving core, right? They got Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. Are those couple of Alabama fellas?
They also got Deshaun Watson at quarterback.
So you wished you had him at Alabama. So I'm going Cleveland. I just think that the defense is going to be better. I think with Jerome Ford and that line, they can muster something together. Amari Cooper can catch the ball enough, and hopefully Deshaun Watson learned something last year watching Joe Flacco, and that's go ahead and throw the ball to Njoku. Throw the ball to Njoku and just sit back because that guy can play. And if they learn that and they do that, I think they're going to come out on top. I think Cleveland's going to get this big win at home. They're going to stick it to America's team. And Jerry Jones, I think, is going to get a face full of cream pie.
So what do you guys think about Deshaun Watson? Do you think it was too many years removed and he just hasn't been able to capture lightning in the bottle again because,
I think it's all of it. I think it's a combination of the legal problems, didn't play for 2 years, injuries. It's too much money because I think the money part is crushing him too.
Yeah.
I think it's all of it put together. Can he turn it around and resurrect and save his career? He could. I mean, Jim Plunkett won 2 Super Bowls. So now, not for the same reasons did he struggle, but I mean,
How old is Deshaun now?
he's got to be 30, doesn't he?
Got to be. You
if
would
he's
think.
not 30, he's got to be pushing it.
He's got to be.
He's 28. He's only 28.
Wow.
He turns 29 on the 14th of September. So he's still young, especially for a quarterback. I don't know. I'm taking Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to do it. I think that Dallas played around too much this offseason. I think that's going to come back and bite them, and I see Cleveland winning.
I see a real low-scoring game. How about you guys?
Yeah. Yes.
I think
21-17, something like that.
I think that Dak has been known to have some real clunkers on the road, and I see turnovers may reach up and bite him on this one.
Yeah.
Because, he hasn't been working with CeeDee Lamb the whole training camp. So, in the NFL, it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
CeeDee's not open like he should be. And their chemistry is not quite there to start the season off. And they're just that much off. That can lead to some picks. And I could very easily see that happening. Okay, so that's kind of one of the only 2-2 splits we've had. So let's see what we think about this next one. We got the LA Rams playing at Detroit. Detroit's a 3.5-point favorite. It's a Sunday night game, primetime on NBC. I'll go first on this one. I've had a hard time, no one was a bigger fan after, when the Vikings just fell on bad times last year. And you could see early on it just wasn't in the cards for them. I really kind of started pulling for Detroit because who wouldn't, right? Because they're just one of those teams that hasn't had too much success. And they really looked like they were up-and-coming team that had the chance to do something pretty special. Seasons don't come around very often. Magical. You had Minnesota back in '98 that went 15-1 when Moss was a rookie. Teams like that should get there but don't. It just seems like you're never able to get that magic back again. When we look at Detroit, Dan Campbell lost every bit of respect that I had for a head coach because he got bullheaded and he lived and died by the stupid decision of not kicking field goals and always going for it on 4th down. And I watched that game and never screamed at a screen. I mean, even when the Vikings played and they lost, I have never yelled at the screen as much as I did last year, watching Dan Campbell not read the room and realize how important those 3-point field goals that he gave away because of his pride of always going for it on fourth down. The Detroit Lions deserve to be in the Super Bowl last year. And I don't care what Mike Palco says. I don't care what Detroit Lions fans say, any of them. Dan Campbell is the number one reason why they aren't in the Super Bowl and weren't in the Super Bowl last year. And I think even the Detroit Lion players themselves in the locker room after that game were saying to each other, why didn't we just kick the damn field goal? And so in the preseason this year, I watched preseason games. And Dan Campbell hasn't learned nothing. He is still trying to make a point that fourth down, he's going to go for it. Come hell or high water, he's going for it. And if he continues to have that mentality, this year they don't have the last place schedule anymore. They won the division last year, so they got a division leading schedule. And so they can't give away stupid games that they should win and think they're going to get away with it. And until Dan Campbell proves to me that he can kick a damn field goal when he should, I don't know, man. I'm taking the Rams in this one. And if that seemed like that was a Daddy Ed rant, that's because it probably was. So give me the LA Rams in this one. So who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Eric took Detroit, by the way. So
I'll go next. We'll let the eloquent Brett go last. Bring it. But I also am going to go with the Rams. I think everybody's discounting them. Stafford's coming back off of that injury. Cooper Kupp is coming back after the injury. You got Puka in there. I'm telling you, I think they did a really good job drafting and replacing some of those players. I think the Rams are going to be a tough beat this year. And when you're going into LA, which isn't big home field advantage because, it's LA and LA
it's in
doesn't
Detroit.
care.
It's in Detroit.
Oh, it's in Detroit. Okay. My apologies. I'm still going to go with LA because I think they're mentally damaged. I think Detroit is mentally damaged from last year. I could be wrong. We'll see. But I think that Stafford's going to come in there and say, this is my house. I built this stadium. This belongs. You can do a Deion Sanders. This is my house. I built this place. I think Stafford's going to come in there. They're going to light it up. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be an entertaining game. And I like Goff, and I'm rooting for Goff because I think the Rams did him dirty. I think he's a heck of a player. I just don't think it's there for him. We'll see. I think the Lions could really suffer from a hangover this year and really have the losses snowball on them. But we'll see. We'll see if Campbell can learn from it. We'll see if Campbell, what kind of coach he is. If he can learn from his mistakes, or like Ed thinks he can't, he's just doomed to repeat them all. So I got the Rams.
Home team, prime time, whether we want to admit it or not, this Detroit team is by far the deepest, most talented team that they've had in our lifetimes. And I don't even think it's close. They had another really good draft. They've got pieces all over that field. I definitely share Ed's thoughts on Dan Campbell and that whole catastrophe in San Francisco last year and how he single-handedly, pissed away a chance at the Super Bowl. I just think, Goff playing his old team, the talent, home team, he's going to, he will definitely be pumped. I think Detroit's just going to be too much at home. Now, if it comes down to So many of these NFL games are close games. And like Ed said, I don't know what the percentages are on going for it on fourth down, 40, 50% or whatever. I'm very old school when it comes to that. And you know what? Points win games. Whether they're 3 or whether they're 7, you pass up these, and more times than not, when you're watching a game, whether it be college or NFL, and you see a coach go for it a couple times as opposed to kicking a pretty much a surefire field goal, in the back of your mind, you got to remember that's going to come back to haunt them, and more times than not, it does. And I hope that if my Bears aren't where we need to be yet, and obviously I think we know Ed's Vikings are probably going to have a rough year coming up. I would like to see Detroit do something. I would. It wouldn't hurt my feelings to see them win the Super Bowl, even though they're in our division, because my God, they've suffered enough. But will Dan Campbell learn? I don't know. That man's got a thick head, obviously, because he sat there and argued about it after the game, and I'm still like Ed. I'm just sitting there with my mouth open, like, what are you talking about? Just own up to the fact you screwed up and move forward. He couldn't do that, which kind of leads me to believe either does he even realize what big mistakes he made in that game. All that being said, this is just one game, Sunday night, and I would be really surprised if Detroit lets Los Angeles go in there and with the W. So I'm taking Detroit by 7.
So that first preseason game, I think it was the first preseason game this year, Detroit was playing, and of course he went for it on a couple fourth downs and didn't get it. Into the game comes, and it was like 9 points or 8 points. So it was I believe it was a 2-score game that they were down. So on their final drive, it really didn't mean anything but had they kicked a couple field goals, now you're talking about doing a short field and you're in there to kick the game-winning field goal. And instead you put your team in a situation where they can't even win because there's not enough time to get the ball twice. So I think you can get the rah-rah backing by your team doing it a few times, but I think eventually, if you continue to make boneheaded, decisions that cost you games, you're going to lose your locker room. So that's my 2 cents on that. So we got another split. Chad and I taking the Rams, Eric and Brett taking Detroit. So that brings us to our final game of the week. The final game of the week. The New York Jets. Monday Night Football.
Yes, Jets.
Which New York Jets at San Francisco. San Francisco favored by 4.5 on Monday Night Football. And I will start off. I'll let you guys go first, but the only comment I'm going to make is DirecTV. I've about had it with DirecTV.
Yeah, me too.
They wait until right before the season starts on you name it, whether it's college football, pro football, whatever. They'll pick out a channel and they'll lay the gauntlet down on getting a new contract. And here we are right up against the season. Last weekend, ESPN and ESPN2 and ESPN News, and they all go dark because DirecTV now is in a contract negotiation with ESPN. That is a bunch of crap that I've, if they want to negotiate a new contract, why is it always the fans that have to,
They shut it down right after the opening kickoff of USC and LSU, and people were going nuts on X and Facebook, and I was getting calls and texts, and I'm like, well, I'm on Xfinity, brother. I got it. Because if I didn't have it, you would have heard it, and all the neighbors would have heard it.
Yeah, I think I'm switching to YouTube TV.
So guess who's going to be looking on Disney Channel or on the Disney looking, because I'm thinking maybe Disney might have a game on. You don't think so, huh?
No, I went and tried. I checked. We have Hulu. We have Disney Plus. I went and checked, and all those are owned by Disney. And I went and checked them for the LSU game. And
See,
none of it
Disney
was on.
owns ESPN and ABC.
Yeah,
Their big fuss is DirecTV and Disney.
yeah. They don't. They also own Hulu and Disney Plus and all of that, and they didn't have the game wasn't on there either. So we were just hosed. I think I'm switching to YouTube TV.
Okay,
After
one of you
after almost 30 years, I've been with DirecTV since 1995.
Yeah, I've been on DirecTV ever since they had the NFL ticket way back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And once the NFL ticket no longer is, the rights of DirecTV, I could care less about DirecTV. So, if they want to continue to play the hostage game, they're going to be surprised at how fast they start losing fans, because people want to see their football in the fall.
Yeah.
And if they want to play that game, they'll see how long that lasts. So I'll let you guys go first. Go ahead and
now, as far as the game goes, see if I get this right. The Jets are going to San Francisco.
Right.
I don't see this as much of a game. That offensive line of the Jets going against Joey Bosa and the crew, or Nick Bosa and the crew, Bosa and the crew. Aaron Rodgers is going to be – he's just going to get a pinball. He's just going to get banged around between those guys. I think San Francisco got too many weapons. Purdy's too good. CMC is too good. Debo's too good. They all got paid, or they almost all got paid except for Purdy. But it's just too much. I think San Francisco is going to win, and I think 4.5 is not enough. I think they win by 10 or more.
Jay's got the Niners by 14.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're already hearing some of the mess that's going on behind the scenes. A lot of players already complaining about Rodgers, and he's not a team player, and that, this between him and the GM and that, and just on and on and on. From what, there's so much smoke. There's got to be a little fire. And at his age, coming off that with the offensive line again, I am totally with Eric. I think San Francisco could end up embarrassing them Monday night. And don't be surprised if the Jets, the franchise just implodes, and the coach ain't fired in a season. And if I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers don't make it through the year, whether he just finally hangs it up. There's just too much going on out there. I'll take San Francisco Monday night, 2 touchdowns easy.
Aaron Rodgers can't retire. He's got to go play in Minnesota.
I knew he was going to say that. So, in your heart of hearts, do you see Aaron Rodgers making it through a full season?
Not with that offensive line.
Nah.
Not with what I'm hearing. He's just not in tune with the receivers. They got a solid defense, solid front seven. But, that can only take you so far. About the third, fourth game of the year, when you're struggling to put points on the board, the defense starts getting tired, start getting frustrated, and they kind of throw their hands up too. It could be the Jets might be fixing to go through a total reset, rebuild again. They might be the Carolina Panthers in 2 years from now, to where they just completely start over.
Do I think he makes it 17 games? No. Does he play in 14? Yeah, I think there's a chance he plays in 14 games. But I don't think he's going to play in all 17.
So Jay brings up a point here, Rodgers last season, and he doesn't even think that Rodgers will get a TV deal after the season.
No, he's made a lot of enemies publicly.
Yeah, he's ruffled some feathers.
Yes, he has.
Now, Reddick, here we go, still doesn't have a deal. So that's about the biggest botching of a trade, I think, in NFL history.
Has he even showed up to practice yet?
No, he hasn't even practiced yet. And I know last week when we did our show, he was already over $4 million in fines. So, I don't know how he thinks he's going to come out ahead in this deal. But, the only thing that concerns me about the 49ers is a couple things. Christian McCaffrey, they've been kind of babying him through the preseason. He really hasn't got to play because of it's always his calf. Well, that was kind of his problem last year, especially towards the Super Bowl. It seemed like they were putting duct tape on that guy's leg just to get through the season. So you couple that with all the issues that they had leading up to the season. You got Brandon Ayuk that was holding out or was, wanted to be traded, and Trent Williams wasn't playing, and they had late contract with him, and it just seems like there's been a lot going on in San Francisco. Will it affect them? You got to think no, but I don't know. Well, we'll see about that. As far as the Jets go, as many people as I've heard talk about the Jets crashing and burning this year, I've heard just as many analysts say that this is the year of the Jets. And if the NFL schedule makers wanted to help the Jets out at all to get off to a good start this season, there was a lot of matchups they could have put together than putting them in San Francisco week one. I just don't see it. At the end of the day, as nice as it would have been to take the Jets in this game, I just can't do it. I'm going with San Francisco. So Eric took San Francisco. Chad took San Francisco. Brett, did you already pick?
San Francisco by 14.
Okay. So that pretty much concludes the pick segment. Is there anything NFL-wise that anybody wanted to touch on quick before we wrap this up for another week?
I have to give my shout-outs.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Brett. You got the floor, man.
I want to give a shout-out to all the Facebook groups that's allowing us to post our content, our show in your group. NFL Fans, NFL Forever, NFL Old School, Southeastern Conference Unfiltered, of course, UFL America, then our group, Southeastern Conference, United Football League fans, NFL fans, Birmingham Stallions fans group. Thanks again to everyone that's allowing us to post our podcast in your groups. Can't thank you enough. We appreciate it, and we'd love to have you on the show sometime.
And all the UFL groups. I mean, even though it's not UFL football, I got to believe that there's a lot of football fans within the UFL groups. So I appreciate all the UFL groups that have allowed us to post our content on their page as well. Just like we've done a Big Ten Power Rankings, and I'll have Chad continue to do that. Brett will continue to do the SEC. For next week, we'll work on putting an NFL Power Ranking together. And as far as the Big 12 goes, I'll talk to Eric and see if Eric is interested at all in doing something like that. I don't know that he needs to go more than what, 3 or 4 deep, maybe. It's really kind of sad, actually.
It is sad. It is.
And it'll change again.
Yeah. Yeah.
But big thank you to everybody that's tuning in and watching us each week. We're going to always strive to make the show even better and better. Really appreciate you weighing in on the games. And just like us, enjoy this weekend. Starts tomorrow night and goes clear through the weekend with college football. I'm looking forward to next week when we start getting a little bit more league play, get some more college games that are worthy of watching. But want to again thank everybody. That's going to conclude tonight's show. We'll see y'all again next week. Thanks for watching.
And that's the bottom line.